Hello and welcome to the DePaul University Finance Student PulseChain Pilot Program stream. So finance students at DePaul University are learning about blockchain and DeFi. They were recently gifted tokens by the generous HEX and PulseChain community. To tell us more about the program and provide us with insights into PulseChain, we are joined by Crypto Coffee, one of the biggest influencers in the HEX and PulseChain community. We have HodPro, who is an OG Hexagon Pulsechain crypto ambassador. And of course, we have Professor Lamont, as seen in the Highest of Stakes movie. And he is the director of the program at DePaul University. How is everyone going?
It's going good. I'm a little nervous. I've never streamed with a movie star before. So
I know,
Lamont.
Lamont, stop it. Stop bringing all the girls and boys to the yard. Oh my God, every post. I was telling my husband, I'm like, there's a lot of likes on these posts. I'm like, I don't usually get these likes are not for me.
Yeah. Also, it was great meeting you, Lamont.
I was like, yeah, I was a bit jealous, honestly.
Yes, we did. What's up, Chicago?
Yeah, holding it down. I used to live right on Greenview over by DePaul University. So
nice.
Hopefully I didn't dox myself. I said used to, everybody. Used to.
What is the campus like? Is it beautiful?
Oh, it is. It's good.
Yeah. Especially this time of year, the leaves are turning.
Oh, I love that. So we're going to say hi to the chat. Kazar, number one in the chat. Thanks for being here. Shu, good to see you. We have Crypto Gains Club 369. We have Mick Hexagon, Dingo Wolf. You know you're my favorite, Dingo. Except for those oranges. What are they doing there? Moon Dog, yo. Blue Collar Grunt, good to see you. Everybody, please feel free to post comments in the chat and questions. So what we might do is do one question for Professor Lamont, and then we'll see his amazing movie trailer, and then we'll go from there. So Professor Lamont, your first question. Can you please tell us about your crypto course and the PulseChain project?
Yeah, so thanks for being here, and thanks for hosting class and everything you did to make this possible. So this is a course I've been teaching for a couple years at DePaul, and this is an undergraduate course, so I guess it's mostly seniors. They're probably like 21, 22. A lot of them are finance majors, so traditional finance, banking, investments, but this is an elective they can take to complete the requirements, and we've got about 33 students, and we're on a quarter system, so we are ending in a couple weeks, but it's been an incredible journey. And I kind of walk them through kind of the origins of crypto back through Bitcoin, and then we work our way into Ethereum and smart contracts. That's what gets us into DeFi. And I thought this year, since the movie premiered in August, that it'd be a fun opportunity to make the connection to HEX and in particular PulseChain. And so class came up with this great idea to do a little fundraising, get some donations, and then share that with the students. And so this last few days, actually Wednesday morning, the distribution went out. So they are now owners of Pulse, PulseX, HEX, and even some HSI NFTs. So they're learning about all this stuff, and I'm telling them about the HEX smart contract, how it works. They're obviously aware that there's controversy around all of this. I've shown them.
What controversy? I don't know what you're talking about.
So I've shown them the clips from the movie. They know about the SEC charges. So there's no kind of question that this is, we're kind of floating on the edge here as a traditional university, but they've been very open to it. And I think it's a great learning experience. There's nothing like actually working with a smart contract to help you understand how this stuff works. So I'm pretty excited.
Exactly. So I might ask Coffee and Hodpril a surprise question. I gave them all their questions in advance, but we might just, for the students, with the tokens that they were given, so they were given, and I'm going to break this down in detail with the finances soon, but just to give them like a quick overall summary, because they were given PLS, they were given PLSX, they were given HEX liquid, PHEX, and then they were given a PHEX HSI. So do you want to, with the students, just for like a minute or two, just give them a ballpark idea of what they're playing with here? What kind of toys have they been given? Lamont has already done this. Professor Lamont has already done this. But I think if they hear it from a few different people, things might start to fall into place for them.
Sure. I guess I'll go first. So they've gotten a little bit of everything, a little bit of all of the tokens of the PulseChain ecosystem, whatever you want to call it, the Richard Hart founded coins. To me, they're all kind of like the next evolution of blockchain that already exists. So we're not really reinventing the wheel with a lot of this stuff. PulseChain is a copy, a fork of Ethereum 2.0. It's just cheaper and faster, and it copied the full system state. So some people call it the world's biggest airdrop because everybody got a free copy of all of the ERC20 coins, and they now have a PRC20 version. Now, whether or not this version is actually worth anything, that's some are, some aren't. We haven't seen any coins yet other than Hex that are actually worth more than their ERC20 counterparts yet, but it's an experiment that's never been done before. And in the crypto space, everyone's got their eyes on it, whether they love it or hate it, or even the people that put their heads in the sand and don't want it to be real, they're still keeping an eye on it in the background. I'm pretty sure about that. PulseX, that is a fork of Uniswap v2. Uniswap version 2 was a very safe protocol. It was the world's first decentralized exchange and the most popular currently. And it has what's called symmetric liquidity. Uniswap v3 has asymmetric. Again, PulseX as a concept is not revolutionary. It's just the next evolution in something that already worked. So Uniswap was very popular because it allows people to crowdfund liquidity. So as opposed to a centralized exchange, having a single company, you got a central company putting up all the liquidity for other people to trade in and out. The DEX, decentralized exchange concept is basically, what if we crowdsource the liquidity and everybody that wants to be a liquidity provider on the other side of the trade can all pool their money together in liquidity pools. We call these LPs sometimes. And then everybody on the internet that's got a internet browser, laptop, and a connection can trade in and out of these liquidity pools all day long with whatever pools are available. So it doesn't matter, what coins. Anybody is free to put up whatever 2 coins in any pair on any liquidity pool. Now, PulseX is interesting because the PulseX innovation was the fee switch, essentially, which diverts a tiny, tiny bit of the trading fees to going and buying and burning the price of PulseX, which is an automated function that happens behind the scenes. It almost acts as a buyer of last resort. And so the buy and burn function, without getting too far in the weeds, is that if you're an owner of PulseX, you're essentially betting that the popularity of the DEX, the PulseX DEX, is going to increase over time. And the more volume that's done on the DEX, the more of that tiny, tiny fraction of buy and burn fees or transaction fees is funneled into that buy and burn automated function, which you don't even run. It's all happening constantly behind the scenes on the smart contract level. And so if, for example, one day, if PulseX gets as popular as Uniswap, you could have upwards of $500,000 of buy and burn pressure on the PulseX PLSX token itself. And that's the best possible thing you can do for the price. So, by holding PulseX, you're also incentivized to see the platform do well. It's kind of like owning a share in an exchange, not literally, but it's as if sometimes, if you want to use that metaphor. So, and then Hex, of course, I think Hex has been the most talked about. It's existed for 4 years. World's first blockchain time deposit. It monetizes time. It's got this interesting share rate system. I like to call it staking with consequences. A lot of cryptos you can stake and unstake all you want, but for some reason, no one's ever thought to, penalize people that unstake early. And that's really where the monetization of the time aspect comes from, is that when you make your stake, you don't have to, it's optional. It's just you and the smart contract, but you better do what you said you were going to do. Otherwise, the contract, just the math, the code, will penalize you if you end your stake early. And those penalties get routed and paid back to all of the staking class in the system that did the right thing. I'm rushing through this, so sorry.
No, you are doing so good. Just made like the best clip of like all of my streams that I've ever done.
Cool.
I'm like, oh man, I'm glad I asked that question. Please
cool.
keep going.
Well, we'll cut this part out, and then I'm going to get to the HSI part. So the HSIs are basically a wrapped stake. So HSI stands for Hex Staking Instance. And this new innovation that not Richard Hart created, it was a guy named Alex, really cool developer. He extended the functionality of Hex. He allowed for Hex stakes to be wrappable, because before the existence of an HSI, you had to, if you made a stake in your wallet, it had to stick to your wallet. It had to stick to your private keys, and you couldn't transfer it in between people. So what the Hex staking instance does is it wraps the stake on the code level. And if you wrap it one more time, it actually becomes an NFT, and it unlocks all kinds of functionality. So you can then have what's called like the equivalent of a secondary bond market almost, where you can use NFT platforms and utilize them to trade Hex stakes between people. And obviously the value has somewhat to do with how much of the stake you've completed and the T shares within the stake, generating the yield. And we're going to start to see these new interesting use cases emerge. It's still brand new. I mean, the HSI is only like a year old. And so they're going to start to come into fruition more and more over time. But that's what you're going to get if you win the HSI, is not only a stake, a hex stake that's already been staked and locked in at a rate of, I think, today. So it'll be locked in at the best share rate you can ever possibly get, since the share rate tomorrow will never be as good as it is today. And one day you might be able to sell it for a lot of money. And it also offers you a protection aspect as well, which I like about the HSIs. Of, let's say you lose your private keys or your wallet gets hacked. Well, you can try to beat the hacker to the punch and hope that he's too stupid to know that you've got this HSI NFT, and then you can race to your wallet and then send that HSI NFT to a different wallet also under your control, and potentially save yourself from a hacked wallet, or potentially offload your hex stake early. It just gives you more options, more security, and more optionality. It also gives you more room to shoot yourself in the foot. If you don't want to hold the hex stake all the way through, you don't have to, but maybe you would have wished that you did at the end of the stake. We don't know what the price is going to be, but it's a fun game we're all playing. So I think that's all that we got so far.
Thank you so much. That was brilliant. Hodpearl, you've been in the Hex and PulseChain community for a while. What does being in the community mean to you?
Well, I would say that kind of extrapolating on what Coffee said about doing what you said you were going to do in the Hex ecosystem. We kind of consider ourselves Hexicans, Pulsicans. We have kind of a community that stays together. Part of the reason for that is that we stake together for long periods of time. And I think one of the reasons that we're able to get along is because the rules are set the way that you earn the most yield back is doing what you said you would and having the patience. So you don't have as many people coming in trying to scam you or trying to trick you into giving up your tokens, because people are just in the pools and they kind of want to come out ahead. But the rules are pretty clear about, okay, you said you're going to stake for 10 years. And if not, you are penalized for that, like a CD. And so that general social aspect of it has really lent itself to a lot of users on the PulseChain making good projects and really being able to help each other and being able to trust each other a little more than most people in the crypto space do. And I think that's one of the reasons why the Hexican community is so tight, is the actual structure that makes it up.
Great answer.
Yeah, that lends itself to it, I think.
Thank you. Professor Lamont, I know that you dove deep into some of the hexonomics. What are some of the things that you found out about the contract that surprised you?
Well, I think the first surprise was just, when they invited me to be part of the movie and I started, doing some of the filming, they also gave me the white paper, which I believe was written by DevKev, and started to just dig into it. And I think first surprise was that there's a lot more math there than people realize. So, I think it's certainly fair to be skeptical of Hex as a project, but I don't think it's fair to be dismissive of it in the sense of, this is just, kind of child's play, and that, this is obviously a scam because you have to have increasing demand in order to keep up with supply. There's a lot of arguments that can be made, but there was definitely a lot of thought that went into it. That's obvious. And I think the community has really, what I've enjoyed interacting on X is just kind of feeling out some of the game mechanics or game theory of what does this kind of represent in terms of choices that people make. So like Hodpearl, kind of mentioned this idea of you're kind of constraining your own options if you stake your hex. And to me, in terms of game theory, one thing I've posted about is that reminds me of the prisoner's dilemma, where if you have two people and, one person's action is going to make the other person's outcome worse, but if that person can kind of pre-commit to a certain action, then they can make both of them better off. And so it is kind of a commitment device, and it kind of binds people to their commitment. It also binds people to one another in this community. And so I think I've really come to appreciate that there are some benefits to that. I'm not saying that, there's not pros and cons. I still think it's very risky and speculative. And so, I can honestly say I would not have asked my students to buy it outright. I think that would have been pushing things a little too far. But the fact that the community was willing to donate so that they could experiment and experience it themselves, I think some of them are really going to pay attention and learn more.
We hope so. We're excited to have them. And I want to say welcome to the students. I hope they're watching today or watching on replay. Coffee, I want to ask you before we watch the trailer for funsies, with the HEX contract and the T-share ratcheting, the bigger and longer pays better, do you want to just give the students kind of like an explanation on that?
Sure. Yeah. I'm not sure where everybody's at in the saga of, there's a lot to learn, right? When it comes to hex, and it's as simple or as complicated as you want it to be. I can touch on the bonuses a little bit. I'm sure Lamont has already covered some of the basics. And if you've watched the movie as well, you might understand there's bigger pays better and longer pays better are the two primary bonuses that you get for hex staking. And again, hex staking, some people call it mining. Staking, it's synonymous. It's optional. Sometimes people think someone's forcing you to stake your hex. They're actually not. And so by not staking your hex and keeping it liquid, you have the privilege to sell. You have more freedom to do what you want and take profit early. But by staking, you're actually locking up supply, taking it out of the system, and you are receiving all the yield, which is also the inflation. So hex inflates at 3.69% a year. All that inflation gets divvied up proportionally to the stakers, the staking class, we call it, in the system. And that's all based on, how many shares you have in the system. So to oversimplify things, when you stake hex, you're effectively burning it, and in return, you're receiving shares. And those shares get more and more expensive in hex terms every day, but they also dictate how much daily payout in hex yield that you get every day. When you end your stake, you're actually burning those shares and minting your hex back into existence, the principal plus the yield that you earned. Now, in order to influence how many shares you get, which then influences how much yield you get, you can stake longer or you can stake bigger. And the bigger pays bonus, bigger pays better bonus, I'm just going to be honest, it's not nearly as effective for the average individual like me or you, or almost anybody I know, because it doesn't start to matter until you have millions and millions of hex, which is very expensive in US dollar terms today. It tops off at 150 million hex, which which would give you a 10% bigger pays better bonus, but that costs hundreds of thousands, I think millions of dollars actually today. That'd be like $1.5 million. And not everyone's going to be making these $1.5 million stakes. I believe that bigger pays better bonus was kind of designed for potentially institutional grade money one day. It was a very forward thinking contract. So we're still in the very early days. Hex still has to prove itself to a lot of people with the Lindy effect and just surviving for a certain amount of time. But anyway, another way people utilize the bigger pays better bonus is some people pool their hex together and they make these pooled hex stakes. So you can layer a smart contract on top of hex and say, well, if we want to benefit from this bigger pays better, we can't do it individually with $100 or $1,000. But if 1,000 of us put $1,000 in, we can make a lot more yield. And then when we end our stake, we'll get a lot more hex back. That's really the only kind of interesting thing about bigger pays better. What's more in your control is longer pays better. And all that means is that a 5-year stake is going to pay you way more than a 1-year stake. And the maximum length stake is going to pay you, I forgot exactly, 3-4 times more than a 1-year stake. And it starts to really matter the number of days that you choose in your stake. Currently, the average length stake is about 7 years long almost. And I believe it's paying about 32% APY in hex terms, not in US dollar terms, because the US dollar price on the open market is variable, highly variable, as we've seen. And that's bigger pays better and longer pays better. So longer is what you can control. And the people that are actually really winning in Hex right now today that I know of, I'm one of them, but are the people that staked long and the people that staked early, and because they're earning the lion's share of the yield. And what they're doing is the non-stakers are virtually lending the value to the stakers by foregoing the opportunity cost to receive that inflation and instead have the ability to sell on the open market. And you don't have to stake all of it. You don't have to stake anything at all. You don't even have to buy Hex, right? This isn't going to be me shilling Hex to people. It's just I like to. I keep some liquid. I keep some staked because the point is to take profit one day. But maybe we survive so long, that decades from now you won't even have to take profit. Maybe one day, the world will be pricing things in cryptocurrency terms. Probably decades from now, but we got to lay the groundwork early.
I love that answer. I'm going to try and do a transition now and watch the trailer.
Okay, we are set for you, Richard. What do you want people to know about you?
I got a big dick. This here is $3.1 million of watches. I own the world's biggest diamond. You don't. I do.
Who is Richard Hart? Genius.
Legendary.
Arrogant. Bit of a narcissist.
The benevolent king.
$250,000. Hate me. Hate me. I'm farther than you'll ever be in your whole life.
Who does this guy think he is?
Whatever the governments have been doing, it's not worked out. You've never had worse interest rates. Your money has never been worth less. Everything is getting worse. The only thing that's making it better is cryptocurrency.
It's better than the dollar. It's better than gold. It's better money.
Crypto is money without governments, and it is money without banks.
You're not going to meet another product like this as long as you live. Yes, every scammer in the world is going to tell you something similar.
Good morning, everyone. Are you ready to look for some fraud this morning?
They are promising 40% annual percentage return.
I want to make people millionaires. Have made thousands of millionaires.
Richard Hart's Hex token is a brilliant scam.
Desperation has a look to it. And when you're looking for just anything, you will fall for anything.
Hex is going to be the new cryptocurrency. We'll take over the market. There isn't anything else out there that's worth a shit.
Everything I have worked for all my life is staked in Hex.
Good. I put it all in.
All what?
All of our house money.
Why is it important to you?
I want to feel loved. Don't you guys want to feel loved? Everyone wants to feel loved, right?
Richard is the Messiah.
Savior.
God.
That sounds like a Ponzi scheme.
Yes.
That you're incentivizing people to pull money off the market.
You know what? I think you just described a 401k.
If the music stops, they're sitting on nothing. X doesn't make money. That's where I'm so frustrated. What is the value?
This is benefits. Do you want to get rich?
No, I don't think that it's a scheme. Because I trust Richard Hart.
It seems like some of this is just a large performance art project. And if ultimately this is all a big performance art project, people are going to get fucked.
I mean, you can fool a couple people, but I mean, can you fool that many?
So that means I should trust you.
Listen, I think you should trust me, but if you get into the habit of trusting people like me, you get the crap scammed out of you.
Wow, that was epic.
Mistakes.
I love Lamont's face at the end when he's just like cringing at Richard.
Every time I watch it, I notice something different. And that time I was like, why isn't it my portrait? Richard. We love art. Is it an art performance? I would love it if it was, as well as like the world's best financial asset. Can't it be both? I really love that trailer. Okay, next question for Professor Lamont. So you come from a traditional finance background. In the movie The Highest of Stakes, you were the Hex skeptic. How did you make the transition into seeing some of the potential? And I think you've kind of answered this question a little bit already. But seeing that trailer again and kind of reflecting on your journey, the way that you teach crypto, I mean, do you think, how much of an impact has this had on you? How has it changed your style of teaching?
Yeah, so, I still consider myself in that category of, asking hard questions. I'm an academic. That's what I do. I don't kind of just jump into things. I step back, I study them. And, I think part of the questions I ask in the film are still very legitimate questions. And I do think they reflect public perception of HEX. So, when I first started learning about it, trying to study it, most of the things I read about it or heard about it were negative. Outside of the community, there's just a lot of people who are very critical. And so, given the way we do research today, which is basically searching the internet, my students have done this, when they study about HEX, they find these blog posts of people who are like, this is totally a scam. Richard has ripped a bunch of people off. And I'm not saying that those arguments aren't valid, but it's just, you can't always just take what's given. You never want to just believe something because someone wrote it or said it. And so that was really the journey of getting into the white paper, the smart contract. And, I had been studying blockchain and DeFi for several years. One of the things that was great about this quarter and this course is I walked them through Ethereum smart contracts. So they used Uniswap as a decentralized exchange. They very much understand, not your keys, not your coins, the whole ethos of crypto. And then to kind of introduce HEX and say, okay, well, is this an extension of that ecosystem or a divergence from that ecosystem? And this question of, is this legit or is it a scam? And I'm not answering that question for them. I don't consider my job to convince anybody of anything or to form an opinion for them. As an educator, I just want to lay out all the information so that they can form their own opinion. And the reason I think I have gotten to this place now, having been in this crypto space for several years, is there's a lot of people who just hate crypto to begin with. They think crypto as an entire asset class is a scam. And so I do think I've developed a bit of thick skin around that, and also a willingness to kind of wade into controversy in a way that some people are not. There's a lot of people, finance professors, they would not touch this stuff with a 10-foot pole, because as soon as, there's SEC charges, or as soon as somebody, if famous says, oh, this is a scam, they're just going to say, I'm out, But is that really what life is about? Is that really academic integrity? And so, I'm just trying to kind of put this in front of the students, given that I'm in the movie and given that people were willing to donate. I was like, hey, let's try this. Let's see what happens.
And we're so glad that you did. For me, the genius of the community, the whole ecosystem is in the HEX contract. And I see it as in some ways, it's a barrier of entry. And maybe there are you can't split the community into two parts, because the community is very extremely, I would say, diverse in a lot of different ways. But maybe there are the people that just, they believe in Richard. And if you watch all of his videos, then I think everybody probably would, if they really listened to all of the information he's ever given. So there are the people that have just, they love Richard and they're going to invest and trust in him. And then there are some, I think there's a section of the community we'll call maybe the nerd types that go deep into the contract. And even though I would consider myself perhaps a bit of the nerd type, I still in terms of the application of the HEX contract, I still have these little moments of realization over the course of a long period of studying it, quite a lot. The whole thing is, like you said, it's for people that are either willing to explore, or they have a sense that they feel like it's for them to try. And like any cryptocurrency, it's volatile, and you have to do your own research and make your own decisions. And do you guys want to say anything else on that? Yes.
I did have one more thought on that. I spent a lot of time talking to my students about decentralized or decentralization, how I think that's the defining characteristic of the whole ecosystem. And part of decentralization is we're not all one thing. We're not homogenous. Everybody's kind of different, and we're all kind of exploring. And I feel like that's something I've really kind of come to appreciate about this community, is just the diversity within the community and the people who really value the independence of being able to use a smart contract without having to go through a third party, that they don't want to all be kind of pouring their money into some large commercial bank. Like, I can respect that. And so I think there's this spirit of independence and innovation and community that I think, I think there's a lot of good things about that.
And I want to dive, Coffee, I want to dive into that. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, going off of that, decentralization is the game we're all playing here. It's breaking away, separation of money and state. It's a really big deal. The internet democratized information. Now anyone can say what they want. And now it's up to us to be able to filter the BS from what's legit. We're witnessing the same thing now in separation of money and state. The cryptocurrency democratized value transfer, just like the internet democratized information. So this is one of the most important inventions of our time. And if you get it right, you can get financially free. I know a ton of people that have done that, but if you get it wrong, you could lose everything. You can get scammed. You can fall into one of many of these actual legitimate scams. And in case it wasn't obvious by my shields and my everything, I don't believe that Hex is a scam, right? I mean, I'm bought into it. But you should be skeptical. You are absolutely right to be skeptical, because there's a lot of landmines out there. But
make sure the contract address is correct.
Yeah, there's a lot of fake hexes out there that anybody can just make a coin, slap a ticker symbol on there. It's really the wild, wild west, That's why I have a course as well. Like you, Lamont, I'm an educator, although maybe in a much more decentralized realm. So, what was I going to say? Decentralization, right? Getting rid of middlemen. That's the goal of crypto, right? The corrupt banking system that's had to be bailed out over and over again. They're hyperinflating your money. They're stealing basically, inflation is a virtual tax by diminishing your purchasing power every day. And we need a better way. We need to trust mathematical systems, and we need to trust math and not man. So if you can code a better way, that's what Hex is. That's what Bitcoin, Ethereum, all these legitimate cryptocurrencies, that's what they're attempting to do, is take the power back to the people and give them something they can rely on, because it's just ones and zeros and not a bunch of guys that, we don't even know. They're pulling all the strings. It's kind of like, driving down a mountain in reverse. Nobody really knows what the right inflation rate should be at the Fed. It's an impossible job for anybody. And, respect to Jerome Powell, but it's a really hard job. And so if we all can shift gradually, it's not going to be comfortable. But this transitionary period where we've got the early adopters now, the crazy folks that are wild enough to believe in a, digital revolution are maybe you're going to be the ones with the most opportunity, because when the laggards come along, a lot of that price appreciation might be gone. And so Hex is no middlemen. Hex, you don't have to deal with the, corrupt banking system, the terrible hours, the 9 to 5, the customer support, the potential censorship, right? Censorship resistance is a big one for a lot of us crazy crypto people. We're all, like Lamont said, we're those freedom loving. A lot of us are those libertarian types of, we've seen what can go wrong. And we don't want our bank accounts to be shut off if, let's say, we are protesting a cause that we might not believe in, but maybe the powers that be decide that we're the bad guys. Even, we've seen this in Canada, right? We saw truckers peacefully protest and get their bank accounts shut off. How do we funnel money into different areas that we'd like to give our economic energy in a totally free and decentralized way? And that's what crypto offers. Hex is just the long-term savings account version of that. It's the financial primitive that's kind of like the blockchain CD, right? So Bitcoin can be like the digital gold. Hex can be like the digital certificate of deposit.
I love that answer. Pro.
What was technically the question again?
So because I've been like sort of jumping between questions, so that's a total fair question from you. So what we're getting into is the real life value of the tokens, and we're also at the same time kind of saying how can the tokens be used in real peer-to-peer transactions. So we're really sort of giving the use case, and I'll just say my piece while you think of your answer, Hodpro. I'm going to echo what Coffee said about censorship resistance. So what I would say to the students is that Hex and PulseChain, we are real DeFi. Ethereum, I love Ethereum, but Uniswap censored Hex. And because there was allegations from the SEC, Uniswap made it completely difficult for the average crypto user to buy HEX on Ethereum. The SEC targeted the top 10 altcoins. The SEC sues Elon Musk regularly. The SEC sues a lot of people regularly and loses regularly, the XRP case in point. And so for Uniswap to censor HEX based on its fabulous history, it did a 10,000x in the last cycle. It was his first cycle. Nobody's been scammed. Nobody has been charged. And for them to censor HEX, that's not real DeFi. That's not what we signed up for. So what we signed up for was peer to contract to peer. So when we use a traditional finance system, there is someone in the bank or a process whereby they have to they give you permission to use your money that you've earned. You've gone to work, you've paid your tax. I pay an incredible amount of tax. I'm a law-abiding citizen, and yet the bank has to give me permission to spend my money. And an example would be if I tried to move my money into a centralized exchange and it was a new exchange, my bank account would always be frozen, probably for the first couple times. Not only that, but most banks, probably 4 out of 5, cap how much you can spend on crypto per month. So that's like treating me like I'm a child with the money that I've earned and I've already paid tax on. So peer to contract to peer, yes, there is a risk of illegal activity. There's a risk of illegal activity with cash. There's a risk to legal activity with many financial assets. There is this cultural belief that crypto is funding terrorism, which I find to be the most bizarre line of thought. Absolutely bizarre line of thought. For example, on the Sydney HEX meetup, like most of the boat was older than myself. Most of the crypto users on that boat were older than me. They didn't want the music turned up loud. They wanted to have sensible conversations. They don't actually like to drink too much, except maybe the younger folk. We did have a few drinks. But I think there are these like perceptions out there about the average crypto user, which is just not true. So for me, being censorship resistant is super important. And the peer to contract to peer, being permissionless is also is what we're about. Hodpro.
Well, I used to joke around about telling the Hells Angels about Monero, like, hey, you want to obfuscate your funds. But I mean, overall,
stop it, Hodpro. They won't get your jokes. You're too smart.
So they love Monero.
Just weird. Everybody. Just weird. But I don't put my crypto tokens in the same category as a stable coin, unless it's a stable coin, or fiat. It's more of an asset. It's more of something like a store of value. So it's okay if I can't, for example, speaking of point of sale, go and, I don't know, pay for a burger with Solana. Even though there actually are some cafes and whatnot that will take certain cryptos, especially if it's on Venmo and whatnot. But I think what crypto could do to people who aren't used to it is broaden their mind to what a store of value is, and to even what fiat means. It's a currency not necessarily backed by gold, silver, or anything like that. When you invest in crypto, and I'm going off of even what HEX is or whatever, that there can be decimal places, 6, 7, 8 places out. And a lot of people don't even understand that it can even go out more than 2 decimal places. Like their mind they haven't wrapped their head around what a 10,000x would mean, in the sense that something could start out at 0.0000008, stuff like that. As far as moving crypto around, I would say one easy way would be a tokenized HSI, just an easy NFT. You can put that up on NFT marketplaces and everything, and people can actually just transact on that. It's easier to do everything on the Ethereum chain now, and I believe PulseChain will be easier to get into when more has come across the bridge. And I think some of the SEC issues have put kind of a damper on that. But PulseChain, the whole system is fantastic. There's so much happening on the chain. And, you know, I'm an original Bitcoin miner. I remember getting into that really early. And from what I see, this has so much potential. The whole entire PulseChain ecosystem, and Hex is a safe. I mean, I hold long periods of time. So Hex that's why I've chosen Hex as the certificate of deposit. But there's a lot of there are a lot of different things you could do with it.
Thanks, Hodpro. Professor.
Well, I think one of the questions my students are asking is like, what's the point? What's the value? Which, I mean, that's one of the lines that comes out of my mouth right in that trailer. And so I think it's understandable to me, you know, a lot of them being trained in economics, it's, you know, in order to be paid yield, you have to be creating value because you're being compensated for some benefit that you're providing. And so I think one of the things that's changed for me over the last month or so and starting to study the contract and interact with the community and get their insights is that, you know, locking up your tokens in this contract, that is costly in the sense of giving up opportunity to sell, right? Coffee was talking about that earlier. And so a lot of people think that Hex is a Ponzi scheme because it pays yield, and they look at it and they say, well, there's no liquidity pool, like nothing's being done with the money. And so this yield must be, you know, just coming from nowhere. And so that if it has no value, then it must be a Ponzi. But the thing I want to study more, and the thing, you know, people started asking me, hey, are you going to do any writing on this? Are you going to kind of explore this further? And it is a goal of mine because it really is like when you enter into this commitment device, this agreement to not sell, there is a benefit to the market participants, to the liquidity holders. And so I think that's something that's not really seen or appreciated that I want to explore further. And I think that could be a lesson for other markets, you know, people who are willing to make that commitment, whether it's for personal reasons or otherwise. It definitely has its own form of economic value. And so whether it is ever used to buy pizza and coffee, to Hodpro's point, I think this idea of, you know, store of value being locked up for long term, there's an idea there that's worth exploring.
That's awesome. Great answer. We've got just a couple of minutes for the 45-minute mark. Professor Lamont has somewhere he has to be. So what we might actually do, I do have one more question, and I want to go through the finances of the giveaway. But I want to give Professor Lamont a chance for an outro, and also Hodprul and Coffee a chance for an outro, and then I can go on to go down into the math side of things a little bit. So yeah, Professor Lamont, do you want to do your outro and just tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, well, I think most people probably know I'm on X, Lamont K. Black. I'm also on LinkedIn. If anybody hangs out on LinkedIn, you can find me there. And my goal is actually to bring those worlds together over time. So let's do it. And I just want to say, Claes, thank you again for everything you did, for organizing this, making it possible for my students. Thank you to the community, especially the people who donated to make this possible. I mean, it's basically $40 per student, which was amazing. I mean, it was Wednesday in class. It was like Christmas of like opening. What's that? Like literally, like, you know, like you go to the PulseChain.com and you click that link and you switch it to PulseChain, and they're like, whoa, there's like all this stuff in my wallet that I didn't even realize was there. That was so much fun to watch. So thank you very much. And I look forward to see where it goes from here.
Thank you for coming on this stream. This has been a great stream. And where can people find you? Like, where is the number one? Where are you most active on social media? I know you've given all of your different ones, but
I mean, in terms of this community, it's definitely X, Lamont K. Black.
Yeah. I was going to say that you get a lot of engagement. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah.
Coffee, I know that you have somewhere to go as well. Do you want to do your outro, or do you want to stick around for another 15?
I can stick around for a little bit. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks for coming,
And
Lamont. I just wanted to say I really do appreciate your truly objective opinion. It was great watching you in the movie, and I hope we cross paths again someday.
Chicago.
Chicago for the win.
Thanks, Professor. So I will respectfully remove you from the stream here. Have a wonderful day. Hodprol, do you want to say goodbye to Professor before I
Goodbye,
remove
Professor. You're very awesome in the movie, and quite a voice of reason for people, especially who are new to crypto, who are willing to question everything, and I think it's healthy. I think it's very healthy to have that viewpoint. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We have one more question, and then I'll go through the breakdown of the giveaway. Do you guys want to go through the breakdown first or the question first?
Let's do the question.
Question first. This question.
High five, Coffee.
You guys did a great job. Oh my gosh, those bites, those shorts I'm going to get from this has just been the best shorts ever. Thank you for coming on. So the last question, I stole all my questions from this one person in the community. I'll have to put it into a thank you later online. What are some of the websites, community marketplaces, and software for physical point of sale that's available to the Hex community?
Physical point
of sale.
I think it's just basically saying, like, where can people buy Hex when they're like a noob? I think that's
So you're going to want to buy Hex on Ethereum. On that blockchain, there's a decentralized exchange called CowSwap. You can just Google CowSwap, and then that's where you can buy the Ethereum version of Hex. There's plenty of different front ends. There's all kinds of different dexes. Another one is called 9inch.io. Another one is Uniswap delisted it, so never mind. Let's just leave it at that. On the PulseChain side, PulseX.com is where you're going to want to go, app.pulsex.com. So what you do is, you get some crypto, you get some Ethereum on a centralized exchange. I like Coinbase, but you've got Kraken, Gemini, crypto.com. Then you take that money out of your centralized exchange, because centralized exchanges are like public bathrooms. You just want to get in and get out. You don't want to linger in there. So you get your MetaMask account. Your MetaMask is your decentralized wallet. You write down your seed words, you store them on paper, you laminate the paper. They never touch the internet. And if anybody asks you for them, you're going to lose all your money. You're going to get scammed. So you withdraw your Ethereum from your centralized exchange into your MetaMask account. And from there, you are now a part of the DeFi world. And you can go and swap that Ethereum for Hex on CowSwap on Ethereum, or you can bridge it over into the PulseChain ecosystem, and you could swap it for PLS, PHEX, PulseX, or any of the other myriad of coins we've got on the PulseChain side. And I do have a lesson about that. I've got a video about that. If you want to follow my YouTube channel, Crypto Coffee 369.
These videos are very good at
videos are extremely good. And if you're new to crypto and want to get more of those tokens that you were sent, do spend some time watching Coffee's videos. That was excellent. Hodprol.
Yeah, 9inch just launched. Yesterday.
Yeah.
Just launched yesterday. So that's kind of cool. We have a new DEX. And it's not just on the PulseChain, it's for Ethereum too. So got myself some BBC on both chains.
Oh, I look forward to trying it out. Yeah, that might be a job for me today.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I'm going to take you through. This should only take like 2 minutes. A breakdown of the giveaway, because there were some questions online, which is fair when people donate. Like, where does the money go? What were they given? And all of those kind of things. So let's break it down. So $1,200 roughly in total USD was donated. So we had stables that just stayed there initially. And then after a few weeks, one very generous donor donated 3 million PLS. Thank you very much to that donor. And then closer to the date, we had a flurry of multiple smaller donations. So a further 6 million PLS was donated from multiple sponsors, probably about 5 or 6 people. And then there were 3 PLSX sponsors. We had probably $20 in total of PLN and PLSB, which we converted to PLS. Because we were just strict on what we were going to give the students. So we had to convert those, but I do appreciate those 2 communities for contributing. Thank you. We had the hookers and cocaine tokens delivered to the address. And while, they may or may not be malicious, I appreciate the joke. And yeah, it gave everyone a laugh and a few posts about it. There was low liquidity, and anyway, didn't
That's
touch
a good
it, but-
lesson in scams, by the way, too. It's called a dusting attack for people that don't know. Anybody can send you any token, and they can call it whatever they want. And hookers and cocaine, obviously a joke. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. But there are worse versions of that scam where they'll say, a token will magically appear in your wallet, and it'll be called, go to xyz.com to claim these coins. That'll be the name of the token. Never, ever, ever go to those websites. They're going to steal all your money. It's called a dusting attack.
It's usually a negligible amount too, not always.
Yeah, it's like a couple cents, if anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're new to crypto and you get tokens sent to you, it is a scam token. Like, just don't touch it, okay? Because it can drain all of your wallet, and you'll undo all of the learning you just did, and you'll get frustrated and then just have a little tantrum and just leave. So it's just best, like, you'll see that everybody gets sent scam tokens. The idea is that you can see them there. Yes, they will probably live there in the background of your wallet forever, and you have to ignore them. That's just the rules. So of the 1,200 that was donated, we decided to split it up into 4 PulseChain assets to gift to maximize learning. So what we kind of approximated was it would be about $250 per asset, because there would be some gas fees with the HSIs and the multi-sender. And obviously we overestimated how much the gas fees would be on purpose. So we didn't run out of gas for this whole project. So we would leave the gift of the PLS until last, and then leftover money, obviously we didn't spend that much gas, all went into the PLS gift at the end. So 555.5 hex on PulseChain was gifted. So this is liquid P hex. Obviously, that number is important to the community because 5,555 days is the maximum stake length term, which is a bit over 15 years, I believe.
All this stuff is on the PulseChain, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is all PulseChain. So they were gifted 369,000 PLSX. And 369 is important to the community because the inflation rate that is paid to stakers is 3.69%. We did a HSI so that you can learn. And again, the same amount, 555.5 P hex as a HSI for 369 days. And then all of the leftover money in the wallet, so everything that was converted, or the gas that wasn't spent, and all the PLS that was kind of roughly proportioned out. We tried to proportion them out initially so it would work out to be about a quarter, ended up being 186,000, a bit over 186,000 PLS. So we could not have done this pilot project on Ethereum because the gas cost on Ethereum would exceed the amount that was donated. So PulseChain came into fruition to solve that problem of the high gas fees on Ethereum. So thank you to Richard Hart for doing that. And without PulseChain, this project would not be possible. So that is TYRH. Multi-sender tool. TYRH means thank you, Richard Hart. So on X, you'll see hashtag TYRH a lot. You'll see hashtag Richard Hart was right a lot. And the reason for that is, like, with these centralized exchanges that Coffee was talking about before, they can rug, which is why we say don't leave your money on there. And Richard Hart warns people about scams. So paradoxically, people like Richard Hart is a scammer. He actually marketed himself perhaps in that way, which was kind of like genius because it brought all the people to the yard, right? That's how Hex did a 10,000X. But surprise, he's not a scammer. He's actually a genius. And the Hex contract, it's a genius contract. So the way that we executed this whole project was using a multi-sender tool. I have no financial relationship to any of the products that I spruce, except that I am obviously deeply involved in the Richard Hart ecosystem. So I don't get money from this multi-sender tool. It just works and it's fantastic. So it worked seamlessly. You basically create an Excel document with a whole heap of people's contracts. And then you just, there's a little tiny math equation that you do. How many tokens do you want to give each person? And then boom, 33 people at once got PLS. That took seconds. Boom, 33 people at once got the PLSX. We did the same for the liquid P hex. The HSIs took a little longer manually having to do them. And then they each get a separate token ID put into an Excel document. That did take about an hour. So it was gifted on Wednesday between 9 a.m., 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so that the reason it took so long was because of the HSIs. And you use a different multi-sender for tokens as you do to the NFTs or the HSIs. And yeah, I couldn't say anything. This multi-sender tool was like a godsend. It couldn't have been possible without this multi-sender tool. And it couldn't have been possible without my husband, who is Par Excellence or at Yingy Wild on Twitter, because he's been doing so much work in the background. Like he did all of the written information for the students. He's done all of the education videos that they've been given, all of the multi-sender tools. So without him, this also wouldn't be possible. We did a kind of like just in the last 2 days, this whole thing has just come together. So I've spent, I would say, weeks, if not months, just stalking Professor Lamont. Not stalking, but, you know, in his DMs, not getting replies multiple times. And but he's been gracious enough to engage with the community and be on my stream twice now. So it just goes to show, if you stalk your local professor, that you know, eventually they will talk to you. No, I'm just kidding. So that's how it all went down. Do you guys have any questions about the gifting process?
Are you asking me or the chat? Or no,
Multi-sender tool. Wow.
Yeah.
That's my question.
Oh, you've been in the chat. Yeah. You're going to be living your island life. Tell us, Coffee, what are your ambitions with crypto?
Oh, hold for 15 years and make a lot of money. Just kidding.
Yes.
But really. I actually do have to get going. I'm sorry to cut this short.
Oh, no problem. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And where can people find you?
Crypto Coffee 369 on everything. Twitter, YouTube, primarily. Yeah, follow me. If you're brand new to crypto, I do have a course. And if not, tons of free content online. Come subscribe. You might learn something.
Quick, are you on Telegram?
Telegram. Well, yeah, I'm on Telegram.
No.
Don't message me on Telegram.
Okay.
I love it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Great answers to the questions.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye. So Hodpro, we might wrap it up as well. Is there anything that you wanted to say you didn't get to touch on?
Oh, there's just so much happening on the PulseChain, a lot of volatility, a lot of money coming in, a lot of money coming out on bridges, even not related necessarily to PulseChain, just Bitcoin and XRP's moving a lot. It's a boiling cauldron of activity in crypto in general, and before the whole Bitcoin halving that's going to happen probably in April of 2024. I've always had high hopes for 2024 and 2025 for all of this as far as pumps are concerned, but there's been movement, there's been entropy, and I'm excited about it all. It's almost too much. I have too much in my brain. It's hard for me to even organize it, to speak it out. I'm having a hard time with my words today because of so many things that have come out in the last few days that I don't even to describe it all is a gargantuan feat, but I'm excited about it. Yeah,
you can see my eyes. I've aged 10 years since our last stream. What I wanted to say was that I echo your sentiment, and I've always believed that of January 2024 is going to be like go time, like leading up into the halvening and then obviously the elections in November. And I have no doubt that there are some serious gains to be made. I'm obviously neurotic and trying to maximize my gains. And what is like at the moment, my internal conundrum is like this macro versus altcoin situation that seems to be unfolding. Like from a macro point of view, it's this war positioning, like you see our basically our prime minister had dinner with Biden recently, signing documents, and there's all this posturing between Palestine and Israel, and I don't know anything about politics except to say it seems like the world is positioning itself one side against the other. And there, and what is the role of NATO in this, and what is this going to mean in terms of like a ground assault? Is there going to be a ground assault? In any case, the way that Twitter or X has evolved is that we see these pictures and images in real time now. Gaza has 50% of its population is under the age of 15. It's all high-rise, obviously partially destroyed buildings. So yeah, that's that whole situation kind of breaks my heart a little bit. And look, I do believe as a result of that, there is a lot of market manipulation that happens at extremely high levels. And I've always believed that before December comes, there will be some epic stock market crash from the posturing. And this Bitcoin ETF for me feels like, we're having this amazing pump right now. And it feels to me like people keep anticipating the Bitcoin ETF, and the price goes up, and there's a little bit of a retracement. It goes up, and it seems to be all up. But then I have these moments where I'm like, if the stock market drops suddenly and severely, for me, I feel like I'm a realist. Bitcoin is going to shit the bed, and altcoins will shit the bed harder. And so I have this in the back of my mind until the end of December, and I almost feel like I always had that belief, and then I was like drawn into the pump, which I'm so happy to be a part of, but it's just still in the back of my head all the time. And it's only for the purpose of, it's not that I'm skeptical 24, 25. It's that I want to maximize my position 23, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean, if you're going to accumulate any time, if that's...
So yeah, that's playing with my head, my emotions, the way that I work at the moment. But that's just me being honest about things. But we'll get into that more later when we're we've got a Halloween special coming up for Ladies Discourse. So yeah, I'll let you go, Hodpearl. And where can people find you?
Hodpearl on X and Twitter X or whatever, and Hodpearl on Telegram.
And a big shout out to Professor Lamont and his students. Welcome to PulseChain. We're so happy that you guys are playing in the ecosystem. What I would say is follow Hodpearl, follow Coffee, and go from there. Okay, bye now.